Hello, everybody. Welcome to Crisis and Business Continuity Management once again. Of course, today we'll be looking at business continuity planning too, and the center of my learning outcome is going to center around key major things, which is about what happens when plan fails. So we'll be looking at that. We'll also be looking at testing and exercise of the business continuity management plan itself. As we know previously, I think one of the things that obviously in the course of this particular module we've learned is that crisis and business continuity is absolutely essential for every organizations, and with what the pandemic has actually shown us, we know it is critical for businesses to be able to plan and also to put up appropriate strategies in place to deal with possible impact of crisis or disruptions on their operations and business continuity. So as I said, the sense of my learning is around the learning outcome for today is that we'll be exploring business continuity management and look at what happens when plans fail. What are the ways in which organizations can embed it, crisis and business continuity into their operations? So we'll look at that. We'll also look at testing, training, and exercise development of BCP. So that being said, the one of the I just want to recap. When we look at business continuity initially in week 8, in the course of this particular modules, one of the insights we've been able to show or demonstrate is that no organization is actually immune from crisis. No organization is free from crisis. So organization needs to plan, and also one of the things that have been shown in previous week, especially in week 8, was also to establish the fact that one in five businesses suffer from a major disruptions every year, and that was shown in the previous week 8 lectures. And of course, we also understand based on the current COVID-19 pandemic as well that has disrupted several businesses, and we know that crisis has affected many of these businesses are out of operation. So it cost them a number of money and also assets and other things as well. So in terms of reputations as well, and some of these businesses may never recover. So business continuity is absolutely essential. And one of in the previous lectures we'll look at whether crashes are preventable or inevitable, but there is need for organizations to put up measures in place to deal with them. And also, we also know that uncertainty in business environment is prevalent, and of course, businesses need to think about crisis management and business continuity to ensure that it helps them to mitigate if there were to be crises that may have an impact on their operation. So that being said, the other aspect is for us to think carefully in terms of what crisis-prone organizations and crisis-prepared organizations. And one of the things that differentiate a crisis-prone organizations and crisis-prepared organization is the concept of business continuity planning, and that's why we're looking at this particular idea today, and we'll try to explore that and look at the implications as well. So, business continuity management is really ways to think about this. I think I find when I was preparing these, one of the holistic definitions I can find is the ISO, which is the International Standard Organization 22301 in 2014 was published. Defined BCM as a holistic management process that identify potential threats to a company or an organization and the impact of business operations that these particular threats, if realized, can cause, and provide a very robust framework for building organizational resilience as well, with the capability of an effective response that kind of protect the interests of the stakeholders of that particular organization, including brand as well, and value creating activities. So I find that these particular definitions to be much more wide, broad in nature, and captured pretty much every aspect of business continuity. And one way is also to look at a BCP, which is business continuity plan. In that regard, kind of specify the course of actions or procedures and instruction that a company should follow in the event of a crisis or disruptions or disaster. So these are the two major things that obviously we need to look at in this particular place here. So, but the question which we are exploring today is what happens when a plan goes wrong. So every organization sometimes claims to have plans, But of course, it is until they get hit maybe by a crisis or disruptions or disaster, that's when their plans is being tested, and therefore this can obviously have a major impact in terms of the operational aspect of the business. So what should organization do when plans goes so that really put me to kind of start to reflect on BCM, which obviously over the years has evolved as a systematic process to counter any effect of disruptions or crisis. So BCM has evolved over time to be able to do that, and BCM really assists in the development of identification of an organization exposure to internal and external threats. And of course, we obviously have to explore areas in which the organizations may be vulnerable, and obviously also have to use both soft and hard capabilities of the organization to provide effective prevention and recovery strategy for the organization. So BCM really helps to ensure continuity of operations in that regard in event of disruptions or crisis to the organization. So what are the things that organizations do when you're looking at business continuity? I think the ways that I see this is to business continuity is about anticipating failures and taking planned and rehearsed steps to protect the business and also the stakeholders. Well, we know from the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic that an organization may not be directly affected, but if the stakeholders of organization, take for example, maybe suppliers are affected, that can really have a major impact on the operations of organization that relies on maybe suppliers for input in their in that particular business operation. Think about many major businesses that depend on maybe suppliers, maybe from China, for example, or from the US, from whatever countries that may be, and maybe because of lockdown measures and all that, and maybe that has disrupted the supply chain. So you want to think much more broadly in terms of the major impact this can have, and this is what business continuity will do for these organizations as well. So one of the things that I think is really relevant, I find, is with one of our colleague research that done by a colleague, Haben, was to look at ways in which business continuity provision needs to be strategically configured. And I find that really important because you can look at a different dimension of business continuity, and then of course the business continuity management did not need to be in isolation, not needs to be housed within a specific department. Of course, it might be coordinated by a specific department, but it needs to be cut across all different aspects of the organizations. And one way to think about it is to look at maybe the human resource units. You look at the responsibility, some of the dimensions of business continuity. You can look at business continuity planning and the processes that involve there. You can look at the communications and structure as part of those elements of it as well. You can look at attitude and ownership in terms of risk responsibility, who owns what and who is responsible for what, and line of reporting as well. This can really help to paint a very clear, necessary picture in terms of what organization needs to do to put up that measures in place to make sure that your BCM is strategically aligned across the different part of the organizations as well. So I think in one of the assignment that was given to you guys, I think one of the things that I was explaining, I came across a particular framework which was in a bit itself quite simplistic in itself. It kind of really looked at integrated business continuity framework and classified the different phases into three stages. And you can in that framework you look at the pre-loss, that is before a disruption, a crisis happened, and of course you look at post-loss during when that crisis, maybe a disruption happen, and then post loss when you're looking at the areas where you're trying to help the business to recover. So these are the major areas where organization needs to concentrate attentions on. And of course at the pre-loss you're looking at preventive strategies and measures that needs to be put in place, and of course at the loss phase, maybe during the crisis disruptions, you're looking at reactive measures, and post-loss you're looking at creative recovery, and then of course you're also looking at being able to bounce back, and that's why a BCM is absolutely crucial to help businesses to be able to adapt, to be able to achieve all the and one of the things and then in doing that, in doing your business continuity planning, you need to also think about your risk management activities, and of course you need to looking at risk management activities, you could be looking at different aspects where you're looking at risk identifications, where you're looking at your risk analysis, where you're looking at your risk assessment within that, and of course the risk reporting and risk ownership within that as well. So you need to carefully define that and help businesses to think more carefully in terms of how they can achieve that. The other aspect is to look at incident management when a crisis or disruption happen, actively deploying some of the techniques and tools embedded within incident management to help relieve the impact, possible impact. And this needs to be rehearsed. This needs to be tested ahead before the incident actually happened. And post-incident, you're looking at disaster recovery effort that needs to be put in place. And I believe these are really important tools that can help businesses to mitigate, to manage the aftermath of a crisis or disaster. So the other things I want to mention very quickly is also still relates to risk management, and also obviously um, relating to yes, I'm back. So the other aspect things I want to mention is to really explain the other component which relates to enterprise risk management within the organizations, where you're looking at strategic planning process within the organization itself. You're also looking at other things relating to setting a very clear objective for the businesses and of course for your organization as the case may be. And of course you want to assign ownership, as I was explaining in these particular frameworks, which I find really important. Enterprise risk management, it is in frameworks where it's not a one-off exercise. Is an exercise that you do over times, and really this can help businesses to think more carefully in terms of maybe corporate reporting or risk ownership within the organizations as well. And it can really have a major impact in terms of what organizations do or do not do. So these are really important aspects in which businesses need to take into account when planning for it. So quite interestingly, I came across a piece of works around BCM. Came across the works around BCM implementation. So BCM implementation, there are different features in terms of implementing business continuity frameworks here. So one of the things you want to look at, there are maybe three major strategies I've been linked I came across in the literatures. I look at the process-centric and of course program-centric and the management resilience aspect of it as well. So the process-centric, for example, looking at ways in which you're looking at businesses main characteristics. The business is driven by product and services. I want to make sure that your process and procedure oriented, your process level ownership, all these things are very carefully defined within the organizations, and somebody is taking ownership of these activities. So these are really crucial and telling when you're looking at this. The other aspect, of course, this has its own challenges as well, but the enabler, some of the challenges is the functional isolation. So you're looking at knowledge confinement, lack of structure, synergy within or across department, and of course you could be also looking at maybe barrier to collaborations as well within the organizations. So this could have a major impact. The other things to look at, to watch out for, is the business continuity management in terms of enablers and the business continuity management skills and knowledge. You're looking at you want to define your users requirements. You also want to have your resource recovery and control management support systems, and making sure that is quite clear from the onset. So that is within the process centric. The other aspect you're looking at maybe a program centric. So this really relates to driven mostly by corporate governance, program oriented within the organizations. I think one of the things that I'm trying to explain in this particular BCM implementation framework is to make sure that your BCM, your business continuity management, is completely embedded within the organization. Otherwise, you will have little resources, you will have little corporations or capability to react effectively if your plan falls within the organization. So if a crisis hits and there is little coordination synergies across the department, then this could be very problematic in terms of being able to react, being able to manage the problem, manage the incident or the disruptions or crisis appropriately. So that is one of the things that is quite crucial when we're looking at this. The other areas when we're looking at this is also to look at the area of ownership issues relating to who owns what in terms of risk ownership, and of course this is really important because we want to assign responsibility to help businesses to be able to manage and do what they need to do. And there, of course, I mentioned management resilience, which obviously deals with driven by long-term competitive advantage and goals in mind, and strategic oriented in nature. Board level ownership is there. So this is the level you want to really get your BCM to. This is really crucial for to help businesses and organizations to adapt, to recover in the event of any major crisis as well. So there's need to have that mindset of board level mindset. That is really important. And I emphasize this all the time, that businesses and managers need to think much more carefully in terms of the implementation of business continuity management programs in organizations. So this is an area that I find really important when you're looking at holistic and embedded natures of business continuity management frameworks in an organization. So I think one of the ways to also look at business continuity management, especially the planning aspect, is to consider your BCM or the BCP in terms of the ways, and you can look at it as a holistic program. When you're looking at your program management, you're looking at ways in which you want to understand your organizations, the nature of the industries, the type of customers you serve, the nature of the stakeholders, and how dependent you want to look at your or different areas in which the organizations may be dependent. You want to exercise the plans you want to maintain, and also want to keep them up to date, keep your business continuity plan up to date. That is really important. And develop some implementations, strategies and response that needs to be deployed. But most importantly is to have that culture or a risk culture within the organization that cherish and nourish business continuity. And this is not something that can be done by one department. It needs to be cut across different departments of the organizations as well. So determine the overall business continuity strategy. You want to make sure that is quite clear. So make sure that you have a very clear overview of the overall business continuity management strategy. And this is something that you can help your organization and organization to do, to have them have that particular complete holistic business continuity plan program in place that can help them to at least reduce the impact of disruptions on the bottom line or the core operations of an organization in events of a crisis or disaster or major incident. So one of the ways that people have actually talked about this is to look at your business continuity management as a practice or something that evolves within the organizations. And this is really important, that business continuity does not just sit within the aspect of maybe one department within the organization. It needs to be something that you completely embedded across different practices of the organization, from finance to HR to sales and marketing, to production, to or different aspects of the organizations at the board levels, at different levels of the organizations as well. So your BCM needs to be embedded as a practice within the organizations. I think this is something that is quite really important if you really want to get your BCM really work well, get your business continuity work well. It is not sufficient to plan and have that plan within a particular chef, or we just sit within 2 or 3 main staff of the organizations. It needs to cut across different aspects of the organization, and that's why you need to think beyond risk management. Beyond risk management, what are the things that you need to do? What are some of the measures that you need to put in place to help businesses? And one way is to make sure that your BCM is well and alive, especially the planning aspect, is to do the testing, and also by way of conducting some form of exercise and try that within the organization to see whether your BCM is well and alive. So I think in previous week I was making reference to the ideas, some of the things that we can take away from the high reliability organization theories that obviously help us to think about ways in which we can put up some good management designs and structures in place to ensure that our organizations are highly reliable. So in these particular regards, so you can look at maybe preoccupations with failures, and of course taking some appropriate measures to avoid some crisis or disaster that may happen. And commitment to resilience was something that I was emphasizing in that particular lectures as well. So that is absolutely crucial for organizations to think more carefully, and they need to be very sensitive to the natures of operations in which businesses operate. So finally, the key thing at the end of this talk I wanted to get away is that you're looking at your business continuity planning. One way you want to make sure that you get it right is the aspect of testing and exercising. And I did mention that no organization is immune from crisis. So organization needs to plan, and COVID-19 has shown us that organization needs to plan. And therefore, even though you plan, you also need to test the plan. You also need to do some exercising to make sure that your plan is working. And what are the measures? What are the tools that can help you to do that? And these are some of the things I want to discuss now. Number one is you can do a crisis case analysis to inform learning and also correct any major defects in terms of your plan. So that can be something you can do, and these are very cost-effective exercises as well. Maybe through the help of experts or academics, they can help your organization to do that. And of course, as I'm charging you now as a student of business and crisis continuity to help organizations to do this sort of low-cost exercise. And of course, you can also do a tabletop exercise as well. So this will be another ways to look at this as well. So I'm just going to pause this. So as I was explaining, so we can look at business continuity planning, and of course the crucial aspect of business continuity planning is to look at the testing and exercising aspect of it. As you probably have known in the course of this presentation so far, one of the things I've mentioned was that no organization is immune from crisis, and COVID-19 has shown that crisis can have a ripple effect on organizations, and therefore organization needs to have some plans in place. But when plans fail, what are the tools that can help organization to navigate, to readjust, and also to mitigate the possible impact of that disruption on the organization. So you can then, obviously that raises questions around testing and exercise. So the crucial aspect of business continuity management. So it is not sufficient to plan, but of course when you do plan, put up those measures in place that can help the organizations. I did mention there are tools that are available as a student of crisis and business continuity management that you can help businesses to think more carefully. Number one is I did mention to look at maybe you can do a crisis case analysis to inform learning and also to correct defects in the plans, in your business continuity plan. So you can do that. These are low cost exercises that cost little amount of money, and of course the other aspect is you can do a table top exercise. These are very low cost, where you bring the teams together and also maybe different stakeholders together. You can do that. You can do simulations, maybe a much more wider large scale exercise. They refer to these as the crisis simulation exercise. You can do that as well to help look at how more likely you react in areas in which the business is may likely be impacted in the event of crisis as well. So you can do that. You can do KMIN, you can do scenario analysis, you can do your business impact analysis and look at worst case analysis, worst case scenario analysis as well. And these can help you to think more carefully in terms of how well your plans are robust, whether your plans are actually robust or not. And of course, one of the crucial aspects that has been recently suggested over times in the literatures as well in business continuity management is the issue of simple questionings and examinations. So you can do a simple testing among the different teams, internal teams, especially within the organizations, and test their level of understanding of business continuity management in the organization. So you can do that, and of course you can do a vulnerability analysis. You can help organizations to conduct this. So these are different. These are some of the numerous things that you can do in terms of testing and exercise for of a BCP, of a business continuity plan. So we can also do a stakeholder analysis, very important as well, to look at some stakeholders that are very critical to your business operations. So these are absolutely fundamental when you're looking at business continuity plan. So to recap, as I just wrap up the lecture, is that business continuity management planning is absolutely crucial for every organization, as we've learned from the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic crisis. We've seen that no organization is exempted from possible effect of crisis. So businesses need to plan, and in planning, they need to make sure that these plans do not just sit within a particular department, but is embedded across different functions of the organizations. And you can help the business continuity management plan implementation frameworks that I showed earlier. You can help to think more broadly in terms of different areas in which the organization can be protected, and of course getting everyone on board, and also getting the top managers and the senior managers levels of the organization to buy into the program as well. So you have that responsibility as a risk manager, as a crisis manager, a business continuity executive in an organizations. So I will just encourage you to think about how you might conduct some of these exercises that I've mentioned. I did mention crisis case analysis, I mentioned stakeholders analysis, worst case scenario, looking at impact analysis. You can look at vulnerabilities, or you can do simulations as well. And there are a range of materials that are available to help design this exercise as well. But of course, if you do have any questions, feel free to contact me as well, and I will encourage you as well to look at maybe some of the earlier materials that we've uploaded and put up for you to be able to take this topic further and deep dive into the theoretical aspect of them. So thank you for joining me, and I'm going to be talking to you in our next lecture around crisis communications and media handling. So that is what I'll be discussing in the next lecture. So until then, please keep safe, and then I'm going to see you again, and maybe some of you that are in my groups, I will see you definitely. But until then, take care, and we'll see you again definitely.